Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Healing Broken Families podcast, where we host conversations on divorce, parental alienation, and high conflict personalities. Yet in 2022, we've shifted the focus from broken to whole. I'm really honored to sit down today with author, international speaker, divine health coach, Kelli Calabrese. Welcome, Kelli.
Oh, Barbara, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to emerge in our conversation. So I invite you to share with us a little bit about your story and your offering and this incredible wellness legacy work that you bring to the world.
Well, thank you. I knew really early on that I wanted to be in the field of helping people be well. In fact, I was 13 when I wrote in my diary, I will be an exercise therapist, really having no idea what that meant, except I loved when I was exercising. And I thought, what do people not get about this? This feels so good, and just enjoyed those endorphins. But I also had a really strong family history of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity, alcoholism. And I went, ooh, I don't want anything to do with illness, disease, and lack. And so I went on this beautiful journey. And over the last 35 years, I've been able to own and operate health clubs, manage corporate fitness centers. I have spoken on stages all over the world, 3 best-selling books. I've been on all the major networks. I've done network marketing in the nutrition realm, and just a variety of really beautiful things to help people be well. I've been an online coach for 23 years now, even as the internet was just getting going. So that was beautiful. And I thought I had it all together. I was living in a $1 million home in a gated community on a golf course, had an adoring husband. My kids were thriving athletically and academically and doing well in my career and great friends. And then the turning point for me was when my husband of 24 years came home and said, my commitment to our marriage is 0. And he left. And it floored me. That was my thing. I mean, I had had hard things happen to me along the way. Being an entrepreneur for 30 years, it's, you got to have some tough skin. And I lost my dad and my best friend to cancer. But this was my thing. And so it took me to my knees and really emptied me out, and it made me question everything in my life. And so I went on this 3-year healing sabbatical to really figure out, how did this tornado come in, blow up my life, scatter the pieces all over, leave this gaping hole in my heart, and what do I do with this? And so on that journey, I got to discover a lot of things. It was a hard journey. It's still really ongoing, although I can say I feel like I've arrived on the other side. It's an everyday, beautiful, beautiful journey. And it's landed me in a place where now I empower women to overcome the grief, rejection, and fear that comes with divorce so that they can go on and heal and build a fabulous bonus life.
Sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, how might you support women in shifting from those emotions of grief, rejection, and fear, to being fabulous?
Yeah, I mean, there were 8 things. If I were to peel back the layers of all the things I did over 3 years, from, divorce recovery and retreats and women's conferences and Bible studies and, the TED Talks and the sermon, I mean, everything that I did, I boiled it down to 8 things that really made the difference for me. And I put them into a program where I help women to go from grief to great. So one of the first things is, and I think we're going to talk about this later, is identity. So we can do a deeper dive onto that. The second thing that I help women with, and a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but it is a huge part in moving on, is forgiveness. People hear that word and they're like, Kelly, if you heard my story, you would not be telling me to forgive. And it was so unjust, and there was adultery, and, horrible, horrible things happen. And I'm not minimalizing them in any way, But what I know that I know that I know is that getting forgiveness and freedom into your soul is what is going to set you free. And holding on to that will leave you in a life of bitterness, depression, anger, anxiety. So forgiveness is part of going from grief to great. Another part is renewing your mind. If you're staying in the past and you're constantly just running over your story and how unfair and unjust and all the things that went wrong, you're never going to be able to get present and move ahead. Another thing that I help women go from grief to great is self-love. If you're not loving yourself, you can't give what you don't have. What is inside you, what you're pouring in, is what comes out of you when life gets hard. And it is going to be hard. There's going to be struggles in the world. And, we need to accept that and love ourselves. Another that I help women with is gratitude. It is a superpower. And I know we kind of flippantly say, like, oh, be grateful, be grateful. But when I really turned into the superpower that gratitude was, that shifted everything. There's several more, so I'll just kind of throw them out there and we can do a deep dive on any if you'd like. Another is purpose. And I think we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. Just waking up and knowing what your purpose is. Also, divine health. When you're going through a divorce, there's a lot you cannot control. But one of the things that you have the most influence over is your physical health. So we do a dive on spiritual health, physical health, emotional, mental health. Another to go from grief to great is abundance, a abundant mindset. Women, especially when they're going through divorce, get into such a place of deep poverty, and not just financial poverty, but emotional poverty, mental poverty, physical poverty, to get them to a place of abundance. And then the last part is what I call joy, resurrection, and celebration. That's where you build the whole new bonus life as you get the other pieces in order.
Oh, sounds so good. And I love that word resurrection and bonus life. Everything you just said really resonates with me. Sometimes, like in fairness, we probably, most of the audience is familiar with terms like self-love, identity. But sometimes we get confused about what that really looks like when we embody it. So let's start with self-love. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Because self-love is more than a selfie. It's like it's a big beautiful area. It's a big beautiful thing. But what does it look like? Or what might it look like to embody self-love?
Yes. Well, sometimes it helps for people to get a picture of it by looking at the opposite. So what happens when we're not loving ourselves? And if you're a woman who's going through divorce, you're feeling unlovable, you're feeling rejected, you may feel guilt and shame. You might not feel sexy. So those thoughts are what your body and your soul lines up with. So it starts with a belief. So you believe I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm fat, I'm too old, whatever that belief is, that belief then becomes a thought. So you start to think it over and over and over. And then that thought eventually becomes a spoken word. And when you speak it out into the world, now you're really giving it energy. And when you speak it, you start to do it. When you do it habitually, it becomes a habit. Habits done become your character, and your character then does become your identity. So that's why it's so important that we arrest those negative thoughts, really stop them in their tracks and speak truth. So holding up the mirror and looking at who we really are designed to be, the potential that we really and truly have. And self-love can start with self-care. So even if, sometimes as women, we're the caregivers. So we're always giving care, but then we're empty. So we have to pour that back in. So the self-care might be like, you know what? I've been letting myself go. I haven't got my nails done. I haven't had a fresh haircut and color. I haven't taken that long lavender bath or done even a home spa day if you're on a budget. But when we start to let ourselves go, we start to feel kind of haggard, and it gets to our physical, insides and our organs, and everything is connected. You can't separate the body, the mind, and the spirit. So sometimes you have to stop the negative self-care and then start the positive self-care. And again, an easy way is the physical part. So the long bath, the meditating, get outside in nature, take your shoes off, put them in the grass or the dirt, get around water. All those things are really great for self-care. You can do things at home on a budget with a self facial, and just taking time to be and not do is really good self-care. And then to go from the physical into the spiritual. So taking the quiet time to really meditate and then put positive things in. So I love using affirmations, but you have to at least be willing to believe they're true. Otherwise, your brain is going to go, that's a lie, I'm not pretty. That's a lie, I'm not rich. That's a lie. But you have to at least be willing to believe that you're on your way. Even if it's not showing up right now in your present tense reality, you can contend for it. So be content with where you are, because that is also an incredible superpower versus comparing, like, well, I don't have what she has, or I've gained weight, or, I don't have, the husband, or whatever it is. Stop that thinking, be content and thankful where you are, and then start to contend for greater things. So the self-love is, again, physical, it is spiritual, it is mental, it is emotional, but put a boundary on what you're allowing in. For example, I haven't watched the news in 30 years. I'm hardly deprived. I hardly live a life that is lacking in any way, but I just choose not to be bombarded and assaulted by the news. I'm not going to allow it in. That's not good for my soul. So put boundaries on toxic people, toxic information. I mean, if you're watching horror movies, even R-rated movies, there's violence, there's foul language, like that's not good self-care, especially if you're in a place where you're kind of low. So those are some of the self-love things, because when life gets hard, if you're filled with fear and anger and bitterness and just deep depression, that's what comes out of you. So you're going to be defensive, you're going to be scared, you're going to get anxious. But if you're filled with love and joy and peace, patience, goodness, kindness, when things get hard, and they will, that's what's going to come out of you.
I like that. So self-love is first. You have to do all of that first before anything else.
Yeah, I mean, when I do my training, there's actually 8 different topics. Self-love is one of them, and I train them in an order intentionally, but it's the one that you're ready to receive and hear first. So if you need self-love first, then start there, because again, that's the physical part too that you can do something about. So instead of choosing, wine or whiskey or whatever, you can choose a green drink. Like that's something you can swap out. And if you're drinking a bottle of wine a night, maybe go down to half a bottle and then a glass and then every other night. Because when we're down, we tend to make less than excellent choices. So even shifting the physical, like, you know what, I'm going to do yoga following a video in my bedroom on Sunday. Start there. Something at least that you have a commitment, knowing you have something that's going to give you something to look forward to and some hope for betterment.
Yeah, I like that. Just baby steps to get the momentum going in a more positive direction. So half a glass of wine, half a bottle rather than a lot. Yeah, I love that you call yourself a divine health coach.
Yes.
That is very divine to put self-love first. So let's back up just a little bit more, because sometimes if we're blocked from putting ourselves first, maybe we're stuck in that unforgiving place. And I did agree with you. I think people do generally sometimes have some resistance and not, instead of allowing for forgiveness to show up.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of false beliefs about forgiveness. They think, somehow it condones the other person's behavior. It does not. They think that they have to wait for someone else to apologize for you to be free. That is not true. They think you have to beg for it, ask for it repeatedly. None of those things are true. And I think for a lot of us, forgiveness wasn't really modeled very well growing up. So we may have heard like, tell your brother you're sorry, that kind of stuff growing up, but it wasn't like true forgiveness. And really forgiveness for me is between me and God. I mean, it's me and my faith. That's what really helped to free me from feeling like a failure. I felt like the biggest failure because of my divorce. This was not supposed to happen to me. I was a good wife. I did all the right things. And, how did this happen? And I just felt like a victim and a failure. And so I needed to forgive myself for feeling that way. And when I did, I could palpably feel a difference. Like this weight, this heavy armor just lifted off of me. That was really powerful. And if you're not forgiving, then you're going to do something else, because you're going to either justify your reason to be mad, you're going to minimize it, like it wasn't a big deal anyway. You're going to do something, you're going to glitch, you're going to malfunction in some way. So why not get to the freedom part? And it doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean what they did was right. It means you're releasing it. It's like if someone steps on your foot, you forgive them, but it still hurts. You're still limping because your foot got stepped on. So you don't forget it. You're going to feel it's going to hurt for a while, but holding on to that will lead you to a life of bitterness. And you can feel when someone walks in the room who's angry and depressed and bitter. And it's like, ooh, like you're carrying that everywhere you go. So why would you not just want to release it? Because the person who you're holding the grudge against, they've moved on. They're cheerfully enjoying their lives. I mean, or not, maybe not, but that's on them. You are not their savior. That has nothing to do with you. This is about you living your life from a place of peace and love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth investing in doing the personal inner work of forgiving so you can get to peace and love. That's really beautiful, because it's a heavy burden to carry.
It is. And I had to realize that I am not anyone's savior. I'm not my former husband's savior. My kids are adults now. They're 20 and 21. I'm not even their savior. I mean, once they're 16, even, it's not even 18. By 16, you're not having as much influence over them as you think. So it was so freeing to me to go, you're right, because I am a highly responsible person. I felt like I needed to control everyone else's life and what they were doing. And being a coach, that was my position. I could fix everyone, and no one wants to be fixed. They want to be loved for who they are. In fact, it's the greatest need ever, is to be loved unconditionally. That means to be seen and known and heard for exactly who I am, with all my faults and all my advantages, and just loved. And not one person on the planet can 100% fulfill that need for you. It's just not possible. And that's why community is so important, because we get different things from different friends, friends from work or girl groups or whatever. We can receive love from different people. We have our girlfriends who are funny, and we love to hang out with them because they make us laugh, and that fills a piece of our soul. And we have friends who are really wise and give good advice. And so it's important that we have, adventurous friends, and all of that helps to fill our bucket to be seen and be loved.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think that we all want to be seen, felt, and loved. So what you're sharing is so valuable. I could go back, like you mentioned 8 things, and I could go back to identity. I imagine your identity was impacted when you got divorced, but let's go to the okay, you're nodding. I
my goodness.
Like when your husband said to you he had zero commitment to your marriage, even I was like, how what were some ways that impacted your identity, which seemed like it was so well constructed and created?
Yeah, I did not ever consider myself to be a person who had a big ego at all. I mean, I wake up every day to help everyone else be well. But what I didn't realize was that my ego/identity was so tied to being a wife. I value that so highly. I have a best-selling book called Mom and Dadpreneurs. When my son was born, I sold my health clubs and my school and my corporate fitness, projects, and I came home to raise him. I also still worked from home and contributed on a very high level to my industry. But being a wife, being a mom, even living in that $1 million neighborhood, that was part of my, identity. And all of it went away in a moment. So my husband was gone, my kids went off to college, I sold the big house, and it rocked my world. And even parts of my business, my brain was PTSD. I mean, I couldn't function to even run my business very well. So I watched businesses that I had built for years just slip away. And there wasn't a whole lot that I could even really do about it. So it made me question who I was for sure. And what I had to realize was who I was not, that I wasn't going to label myself as a divorcee, someone unlovable, someone rejected, someone unworthy. So again, you have to do the to don't list first, like the to not list, like I'm not going to be labeled as these things. But what I realized was we tend to put our identity in the things of the world. So the car we drive, the purse we carry, who we're dating or married to, and all those things can go away in a moment. And they did for me. So I needed to really look at who am I by myself, just me. And again, for me, it goes back to my faith. I had to see myself how my creator saw me, and to know that I am not limited by my brain or my body or my connections or my influence, that there's something bigger out there that is orchestrating everything. And so that gave me hope when I saw, okay, well, God doesn't see me as less or lack or divorced or unlovable or rejected or any of these things. And that really helped to keep me going, that He created me, He loves me, and that gives me reason to get up every day.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I love that. It was so valuable that we went back to identity. I thought we were going backwards, but now let's go all the way over to purpose, because life is so much more fulfilling when you have a life purpose. And it seems like identity and purpose, and the way you're explaining your story and sharing your story, are connected. And purpose was one of the beautiful healing components that you mentioned in your list. So talk to us about life purpose, Kelly.
Yes, I believe we are all born with a good plan and a good purpose on our lives. I don't believe a single person is born to do terrible, awful, dark, sinful things. I just don't. So if there's a good plan on our lives, it's up to us to really do the investigating to find out what that is. So when you go through divorce, it's easy to feel like you don't have purpose because your purpose was as a wife. A lot of women are stay-at-home moms. Your purpose was as a mom, but then the kids grow up and they move on, and then you're an empty nester, and now you've got to rediscover again. So there's definitely seasons where you might find that your purpose in this season, while your kids were little, was being a mom, and then your purpose might be, something else. And like my mom now is in her 70s and she volunteers a lot. And so you need to wake up every day with some purpose. Otherwise, you will find yourself just wandering, feeling like a ship just being tossed by the sea on a cruise to nowhere. So waking up every day knowing at least there's something that's inside of you that lights you up, that there's this desire to do something, that when you do it, it doesn't even feel like work. So I do a lot of exercises with the ladies that I work with. And, I'll ask some open-ended questions like, if you were going to die in 6 months, what would you do? What would you not do? If you won the lottery today, what would you do? What would you not do? Just to get them to go back to even when you were a little girl, what was that thing in your heart that just made you burst with excitement and energy and love? And what is the thing that when you do it, time just passes by and you don't even realize it? And so I do a bunch of exercises with them where we ask these, there's like 100 questions. And it takes work. Some people might know right away. Like I knew early on, I wanted to help people with divine health. And the vehicles have looked different through the years. They keep changing, but the mission is always the same. When I was 17, I wrote a mission statement. I will provide individuals with the tools to make health, fitness, and wellness a permanent and enjoyable part of their lives. And that still serves me. But now, it's a little different. I'm empowering divorced women but it's still about helping people be well. And when I look out into the world and I see all the cool things that people can do and do, I mean, really incredible things. The most successful people have overcome the greatest adversity and they were resilient. They got back up and they figured out a way to do something with their hardness and still pursue their dreams. So if you're feeling purposeless right now, just feeling like, oh, I'm just out here getting tossed around by the world, take the time to really press in. And one of the exercises that I do with the ladies I work with is I have them do affirmations. So saying things like, I am strong, I am smart, I am powerful, I am able, I am empowered. And again, you need to at least be willing to believe those things are true. And then I have them visualize. And I would always think about what is the highest possible thing that I could visualize. And for me, it's heaven. So I just, lie somewhere quiet and I imagine that I'm in heaven. I'm like, okay, if anything were possible here, if I could ask the creator of the universe any question, if I could receive any powerful information, any guidance, this would be the place. So I have the ladies imagine a heaven experience and I kind of walk them through and they get answers. I mean, it's amazing when you ask good questions and you sit in quiet, you will get good answers. And so it may evolve, and then I'll have them meditate on that, like write those things down and just sit and let that kind of wash over you and just soak in those answers that you got and see what it turns into. I mean, look at the things that people are creating today. I mean, even 10 years ago, there wasn't even an app. Social media is still only about 15 years old. The iPhone is like 22 years old. Drones weren't around years ago. I mean, there's so many amazing new things. I see new ideas all the time. Like, why didn't I think about that? Like, wow, that's amazing. So people are just amazing and they all do have purpose. But if you're just going through every day being like Groundhog Day, going through the motions, because 95% of what we do after the age of 35 is habitual. So if we just get up and we have the same breakfast and we do the same commute and, go through the motions, we might not ever find it. And then that's really sad. So I would love if everyone took the time to really figure out their purpose. And it may take a risk, to take a step of faith and step into that thing. But wow, when you can take your purpose and your passion and your profit, be able to actually somehow monetize that, and it's not always money, you hit the sweet spot of life.
Oh, it's so compelling. I find you very deeply inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
And your vibration and your energy is very high and positive. So yeah.
Thank you. I received that. It wasn't, when we talk about grief, it starts out with, sort of, for me, it was shock, where I was like, what? On a scale of 1 to 10, your commitment to our marriage is 0. So it was shock. I mean, just loss and then numbness and denial. Like, no, this isn't happening. Like, this is a bad dream. And then, the next stage is kind of emotional outburst, which I didn't really do that. I kind of skipped that one. And then I wasn't really angry, but you do have to go through some anger. That's part of the grieving. I definitely had fear. I got into a place of complete fear. You're searching, like trying to figure out, like, how is this all going to play? How are these pieces going to come together? What about my kids? And then you feel chaos and disorganized. Like, okay, we're selling the house. Where are we moving the kids' schools? But there's just like this, whoa. And then there's a little bit of panic. For the first time in my life, I had panic attacks. I had anxiety. And then there was guilt that I ruined my children's lives. And there was deep loneliness. And this was even before COVID, but that certainly added to it. COVID divorce is rough. There's a lot of isolation, again, before and with COVID. And I was depressed for the first time in my life. I didn't know what situational depression was, but divorce causes that. And then eventually you start to like re-enter and you start to figure it out and you start to have new hope and start create new patterns and new thinking, and the affirmations work. And then eventually you adjust. And then from adjusting, you're like, this is amazing. Like, wow, there could be this whole new incredible bonus life. So my vibration was very low for a while. And the lowest level is that victim, where you feel like this happened to me. There was nothing I could do. This was out of my control. What do I do now? This is awful. But the very highest vibration is love. It's that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, that self-control. And the tipping point to go from that victim to the self-love is courage. It's resilience. It's being able to say, I got knocked down 10 times, but I'm going to get up 11. Is it easy? No. You cannot do it. That's a choice. You can stay down. You can be homeless. You can, just, even if you have a lot of money, you can just live this isolated, minimal victim life. It's not just about money at all. So it's a choice.
I guess when you have a choice, you feel more empowered.
You do. And it's up to you to make the choice. There might not be, Prince Charming coming up and, his knight in shining armor on the white horse to come save you. He may not. You may have to get up all by yourself. I mean, I encourage you, surround yourself by an amazing community of people that are wiser than you, that you can trust, that are ahead of you and where you want to be. If they have the marriage you want to have, the business you want to have, the style you want to have, the social media you want, whatever it is, surround yourself by those people that are operating on this highest vibrational levels and let them pull you up. I was so thankful that the thing in my life that was a 10, besides my faith, was my friends. And so at just the right moment, at my lowest points where I was just crying out, like, I don't know if I can do this, this is too hard, someone would just send me a message, a song, a quote, invite me someplace. And it was like, yes, I don't know how you do it without, faith and friends. And then for me, fitness was always important because that was my background. But doing it without fitness, that's rough too.
Well, let's touch on that quickly because fitness, exercise, being a divine health coach, that is something that's kind of come up in the whole stream of our conversation. So why is that important to women?
Yeah. So when you're feeling down, one of the things you can do is change your physiology. So if you get up and go out for a brisk walk around a lake, under trees, with a dog, see squirrels, whatever, that's going to change your energy. You can't not feel good. Your heart is pounding, your lungs are functioning, you're getting just toxins out. And it's a body, mind, spirit experience when you do things physically. So things like yoga are wonderful, meditation, lifting weights, jumping rope, dancing. I mean, anything that you can do to get your body moving. There is incredible science that shows there's an amazing connection between your emotional health and your physical and mental health. People who exercise, even looking at triathletes as, sort of an extreme on the exercise side, they are happier, they earn more money, they have more discipline in every area of their life. So exercise is a discipline. It takes work, but it's one of the few things in life that is a guarantee. So if you put something good in by exercising your body, you can't not see an amazing result. It's not like the stock market where it's like, well, maybe, cryptocurrency, no, this is guaranteed. This is your body, the physiology. You cannot trick the science. If you do good things will happen. So even if it feels like everything else is down, there's something you can do to exercise. Even if you're disabled, you can breathe, you can function some part of your body. So get up, get moving, and it will change your mind. It will clear your mind.
I have a little experience in the gym. And one thing I remember is for me, when I was physically strong, I felt more mentally strong.
Yes.
Yeah. All those other things. And I mean, who can't use more endorphins?
Yes.
All right. Well, listen, I think that was everything you said is so valuable. And to me, you're just creating a beautiful legacy work for women. I feel very inspired just spending this short amount of time with you. So thank you. Thank you for being a guest today.
Yes, I'm so happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
How might women reach out to you and connect with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, well, I will respond to absolutely every single email. I love to hear from people. So if there's something that inspired you or something you want to share or need help or hope with, please email me. It's Kelly with an I at kellicalabrese.com. And I also have all the social media with my name. But if you're a woman going through separation, divorce, post-divorce, I have a private Facebook group that I pour a lot into every single day. It is a great community of women, and we talk about the hard things. We talk about, we just encourage each other and laugh and support each other. So it's just a fun place for people to go to get support.
Sounds fabulous. Sounds fabulous.
It's actually called Intentionally Fabulous. So that's the Facebook group.
I love it. I feel energized every time I hear that word, intentionally fabulous with
Yes.
Kelly. Beautiful. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for joining us on the Healing Broken Families podcast. Every episode, we set the intention to expand our soul. And I feel we've done that today with you, Kelly. It was a huge expansion. So I encourage you to reach out to Kelly. And I also encourage you to subscribe to this podcast when you see the lotus in the corner, so we can keep the expert guests and inspirational guest content coming. That's all for today. Namaste, and thank you for tuning in.